I'm perusing a book, a ballet book. It's called Repertory in Review by Nancy Reynolds, former dancer, excellent writer. And there's a ballet called WaterMill. Now, this is by Jerome Robbins. WaterMill is a place, was a place. He had a summer home. This is a work. That's the reason why I have this book. WaterMill, that ballet with no dancing in it, was another substantial work by Mr. Robbins. And it's a work with longevity. It's a work with complexity. It's confusing, very abstract. So that's why I would like some help with this. And it is the work of music. It is to music, using primarily Oriental elements, and with a distinctly Eastern feeling, although it is not, according to the program notes, to be construed as Oriental. Now you can see what I mean and how complex it is to begin to get into it. It is easily described, or perhaps uneasily described, for although little happens, a retelling of what orally and visually occurs stops far short of accounting for the resources in the ballet. Well, that might begin to describe to you why I am referring to the written word. For what happens is the least of it. On the other hand, everything is happening. Or is it? Is WaterMill in its suspended world a masterpiece or a bore? Reaction was definitely mixed, although generally favorably, with reservation. The piece was seen as a compelling theater, if not exactly dance, and so far as movement was concerned, a highly interesting involvement with slow motion. Now, I am going to this length because it was a major work of Robbins, the most unusual work he ever did, and the most unusual work I had ever done in my life. So I thought it was incumbent upon me to sort of address it, because I did address it. And I addressed it, I am very proud to say, with acclaim. And I will get to the closing of the ballet to give you a full sense of what this was and what it meant to me. At the very end, in this very spare work, I'm waiting for the curtain to come down, and as I am, I could sense the impending reaction. And I knew it was not going to be totally favorable. And it was startling to find out I was absolutely right, because those who didn't like it let everybody in the theater know. And those who did like it, of course, did the same on their side. So it was, as the saying goes, mixed and very complicated for me. And Robbins was the kind of guy who would say to you, don't do it too fast. Make sure it's slow. And a couple of weeks into it, he would say, could you move it along a little bit? It's sort of dragging. So it was the artist piece I had ever done. But it truly created some kind of critical sensation. So for me not to address this would have been a little beyond me. When I had to do complex works or works I didn't feel comfortable with, I never spoke of them. I let it go by. I thought it was enough that the audience would take care of that for me. And on that opening night, as I was watching the curtain come down, I was also waiting for the impending reaction, which of course was multiple opinions. So when you have a work like that, it is not up to you to judge it. It is your job as being the professional to do what it is you could do with, hopefully, some of the guidance of the choreographer. Spare stage, couple of things on it. I was dressed in a huge cape facing backwards. There was an Oriental Japanese orchestra sitting downstage left. And as the music was going on, I took as much time as I possibly could to turn around and finally look at the audience. And when my wife saw it for the first time, she said to me, "Wow, she said, I've never seen that kind of capture of simply turning around. And as I finished my turnaround, the next thing I had to do was take this very heavy cape off me, and I was down to a costume that was half the size of what we refer to as a dance belt. And the costumer had asked me for one of mine, and he had cut it in half. And that was it. And that was me. So you could see that this was a work that I had to bring something to and still make it very serious and make it very balletic, even though there was not a step there. This was a work that constantly perplexed me. It had very few people in it, and those people who were in it, they were almost incidental.
You can start from the people were incidental, if you want.
Pardon me?
The part where you said, and the people that were in it were incidental. You could pick it up from there.
Yeah. So I had a very heavy responsibility to make this have a theatrical dimension, to make it, with my performance, to carry the entire ballet, even though there was music, there was lighting, there were very small indication of a set. But it was a challenge. At one moment in the ballet, there's an airplane that flies by, and I have to lie on the stage and contemplate. And for quite a bit of time, and one time I fell asleep. And that was the most unusual moment I ever had on the stage.
Yes.
Okay.
What? I was telling a story here. What? Let him finish the story.
Jerome Robbins was a master on Broadway. He was a master in the ballet world as well, not to the degree and dimension of George Balanchine, but to have two masters like that was unbelievable. It's probably the first time in history that something like that had occurred. At any rate, it was basically a man's bearing himself to the world. He was naked to the world. And as I suggested, the costuming was minimal. So you felt naked. You felt like you were providing anything and everything that you might suggest. And the scenario of this is I can't spend the whole time trying to suggest the scenario that amounts to little or nothing. That's a very, very complicated thing to do. And I managed to pull it off. And, I have always respected the work. I have always respected how I approached work. And I gave it everything that would come to my mind, that I might provide to an audience that was incumbent upon me to entertain. So, needless to say, this was not my favorite work. And the other thing about the casting, I was the kind of dancer who couldn't wait to jump. Jumping was something I did very well. Attacking was something I did very well. And I missed those kinds of things. So for me to constantly hold back was painful. That's not who I was. That was not the animal I was. I was a very different kind of, more ferocious animal, if you will. So I managed to do it. I managed to be critically acclaimed at it. But again, it was not a work that I look forward to, obviously. As years went by and I retired, I got a phone call from, as years went by, I got a phone call from Mr. Robbins. And he said, I want to revive WaterMill. And I said, Jerry, are you serious? I'm 50 years old. And, I have matured. I'm a man of 50 years. And I have a body that I'm not sure I wish to provide to an audience at Lincoln Center. That's something you should think about carefully. And, I'm a beer drinker. I like Haagen-Dazs. And now you're asking me not to avail myself of my favorite things. And Jerry was insistent, and he said, no, you have to. I said, okay, Jerry, okay, but let me think about it. Jerry, in his inimitable manner and style, announced me the next day. This was Jerry. So I said, okay, I will do it. And I did it. And again, I was able to conjure it all back up and get through it, and was received well. But that's not the kind of thing I prefer. I've had the pleasure of reading from this book. I've referred to this book on an ongoing basis. Very, very important part of my library. Not only repertory in review, author Nancy Reynolds, 40 years of the New York City Ballet, and with an introduction by Lincoln Kirstein, who is the man who brought ballet sheet. He went to Europe to find a ballet master and found George Ballet. So this is an extraordinary work that I recommend to you, and I will tell you, it's a prominent piece in my library, and I guarantee you, if you are a ballet fan, in particular, a New York City ballet fan, and if you know the brilliance of George Ballet and Jerome Robbins and any number of other choreographers, this will be a delight.